Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Podcast. It is your host, David McCaig Jr. This is the Wednesday edition of the Game Sports Podcast. I am joined by Justin Hykel, as usual, on these Wednesday editions. Hike, my friend, how's it going?
Oh, good to be back. Good to be here. A lot of action to talk about from this past weekend, and
Lots
into the
of
week,
action.
to be honest.
Lots of action. It doesn't matter if this is recorded Wednesday. All the content here on the game is always relative. If it's a couple days after, if not even longer after. So make sure that you are hitting like, follow, and subscribe, and all of the things of the Game Sports Podcast, Spotify, Apple. Listen, we always got great content. 2 episodes a week. Extra episodes of the special editions. Always great content. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We're quite active on that. And yes, TikTok, we are finally more active. But Justin, we are powered by somebody. Can you remind the listeners who that is?
Ooh, quick throw to me, no pressure. Powered by 91N, 91 Network YouTube channel. 91N has a variety of podcast content that you can go check out. Primarily, I'm going to hype us and our program here tonight. But if you're doing a podcast and you want to give her a go, you can reach out to Dave here at 91N, email 91networkssm@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's 91N, baby. 91 Network, formerly known as TGEM. I said it. It has been 2 months since I've said it. Feels nostalgic to say it off the tongue, but we obviously had the name change back in September is when the name change for both the podcast and the platform had it. And 2024 is a big marketing year for both of our content, and we're very excited to have all of our followers who've been around since day one or for a long time, or if you're new, does not matter. We're very happy on the 91N side as well as the Game Sports Podcast. Now, you probably wonder if there's any sponsored by it. Listen, this episode's just going to be one segment. We're just talking about our powered by, and that's 91N. I'm going to list the agenda in just a few moments. It's going to let you know again that there is going to be no commercials for this episode. There was commercial-free content since October. We are going to keep that going for the next few weeks at least until we figure out a few other things and finalize a few things, if you catch my drift, before we start introducing some sponsors and different ads that may be coming in. Not necessarily commercials that you're going to have to skip through, but we're going to have this as commercial free for this episode. And it's going to be all one segment. We're not going to have different parts. So make sure you sit tight, buckle up, or if you're going to step away for a few moments, you turn up that volume because you don't want to miss anything.
No skipping.
No skipping. Even though I got the time, listen, all the content's great because this is I'm excited for this show. I'm excited about every show, but this one's kind of like we're going to have in the pocket. That's going to be a segment that I'm going to break to appropriately, but we got some good little like appetizers up until the meat and potatoes of the show, which is in the pocket, obviously.
Potential to go off the rails.
A little bit. Now, the agenda, speaking of it, if you smell, that's all I'm going to do. I was actually going to do it, but I didn't do it. I didn't want to do it.
Well, you did it. I mean, you got you got most of the way there.
I stopped. I realized that I actually did not sound that good, and then the volumes were starting to hit the red a little bit, so I wanted to pause. So if you're wondering what that meant, that is, a wrestling reference to somebody that I grew up idolizing. And still my favorite actor. He is. And the reason why I started liking wrestling as a young lad was this individual, and that's The Rock. Yes, we are going to talk about The Rock, and you're going to be able to smell what he's cooking through your ears somehow. And we're going to talk about how his surprise return to, why am I drawing a blank? Raw. I almost drew a blank there. And and everything going on with The Rock and the WrestleMania call out to a certain somebody. Look, I'm not going to take all the floor with that. I'm going to give Hike the floor with wrestling content that needs to fill your day. Then I'm also going to be discussing here with Justin, more so myself, but with basketball. I want to give a little bit of reaction to the Toronto Raptors. Of course, I am a Toronto Raptors fan, and we'd like to talk about all the teams in the NBA, but we're going to do a time constraints. We're going to talk about the Raptors a little bit more about their recent trade and what future trades may be happening, as well as I might give a little shot to the Pistons. I might not, because they did defeat the Raptors. And then after we discuss that, Justin and I are going to get right into In the Pocket, and we're going to talk college football with the NCAA. Great games this past weekend all over. Oh, so good. So good. Listen, I don't watch college football as much as I should, and watching it this weekend makes me realize why I should be watching a little bit more, to be honest with you. And then we're also going to be talking about the NFL, of course. And yes, we will, once local football gets a chance, if you're looking for some local football love, if you're from the Algoma region or from a surrounding area, don't worry, that'll come when time is appropriate. Even though there's not snow on the ground, it's still winter. And then we're going to conclude easy for me to say, the show from there. So Justin, look, everyone's waiting, okay, because loyal listeners of the Game Sports podcast know something about the show. The late Scott Nason and Butch Davis, late Scott Nason and obviously Butch Davis, who is still on the game platform through Podbean. They used to talk about wrestling all the time. On the previous Monday edition, when the Game Sports podcast was known as the Game Sports Show, when we were on ESPN 1400, having live radio Mondays, they would talk about Raw, and Butch still talks about Raw. It's about Smack wrestling in general. They talk about it. And if you're a really big loyal listener of the show, you'll know one episode that was uploaded about back in 2018 with yours truly and somebody named Intercontinental Inch. Yes, there is somebody on our staff that's a casual wrestling character that has only been on the show twice. And one time he was feeling quite good, and the other time me and him were both feeling quite good, and we did it at 2:00 in the morning in an RV. We did a 15-minute segment recording, and it was great. I gotta find that. It was actually amazing. It was amazing. So wrestling is something that we hold dearly on the show, and Alex Parr, someone that everyone knows well, is a big wrestling fan, but so is Justin. I'm not gonna lie, I've pulled away as I got into my late teens and my 20s. But obviously when I see The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin, or, when Edge came back and all that, you kind of get that nostalgia feeling. It was great. But there was a comeback this week, and it was The Rock. Justin, talk about it. Give our listeners some education about what happened this week, what the rumors are, and just some wrestling news. Get some holy wrestling news here on the game. It's been a while.
Big hype train this weekend all over the WWE Twitters. Triple H out there telling everyone that the rumors are true. There's going to be a former champion returning to Monday Night Raw this week. So 2 hours worth of Raw I watched to get into this. And I mean, some good stuff. I just, I'm getting back into it now. I was through the pandemic, got into wrestling again. I was an AEW guy primarily because I was rooting for the underdog. So you shit all over me all you want for those guys that are out there that could only watch one thing and one thing only. And now as people are, jumping ship and going to other organizations, I'm back into the WWE too. So I'm not familiar with some of the stuff that was going on, but the Rhea Ripley match with that, I think Ivy Nile, that little blonde chick, it was bananas. Like Ripley she could rip the door off a car, I think. Fascinating. But the moment everyone was waiting for, the former champion, Jinder Mahal coming out, and everyone just obviously booing him, shitting all over the guy. He had the audience booing the American national anthem while he sang it in Punjabi. And then obviously halfway, he was dropping subtle hints through the whole thing where telling people it didn't matter what their opinions were, and you smell this or you smell that, so that you knew, you obviously knew. And then all of a sudden the music hits and the crowd goes absolutely banana. I mean, I went banana. I was jumping in the garage. That's back in the Attitude Era days, Stone Cold and The Rock, the People's Elbow, the eyebrow. You know what I mean? Not bald Rock with hair.
Yeah, and the sunglasses every time he came out.
Yeah, like it was. He's jacked to the fucking gills, man. Like he is shredded.
Yeah, he is.
Like I don't know if it's a t-shirt he's wearing or if he goes and gets a area rug, like an 8x10, and just cuts a hole in it, wears it as a tank top. I'm not sure. Comes out, starts him and Jinder going back and forth. Tells him, Jinder, oh, these people don't like me because I have an act. No, these people don't like you because you're an asshole. Is what he tells them. It's beautiful. I like this new era of TV where you can, add the swearing in a little bit. It's not so PG.
Yeah.
I mean, back when we were watching in the Attitude Era, the PG-13 was pushed to the tits, literally.
Yeah.
Literally. And now they're just using the language that they can use. So, I'm okay with that too. If that's how you got to sell it, I'm good with that. If you want to throw a shit or an asshole in there, I'm good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
And,
it has that attitude to it. It adds to it.
Jarring back and forth. And then obviously the moment everyone's waiting for, they get into it. We get the rock bottom, a people's elbow. And then, so Mahal's gone out of the ring. The Rock's still standing there. The crowd, like, the guy could take a breath, and the crowd goes bananas. So the place was off. I don't think
Off the
anyone
rails.
was in. Yeah, like no one was in their seats. And he's like, "All right, well, the Rock's got to leave. All this fighting's made him hungry." And so when the Rock goes out tonight, should he sit at the bar? And obviously, people, the bar, yeah, 100%. You should sit. Should he sit in a booth? Mm-hmm. Or should he sit at the head of the table? And that was the Roman Reigns setup right there. And he leaves on that cliffhanger. So, I mean, SmackDown this Friday night, obviously electrifying, should we use that word? Is going to be should be pretty good. We'll see where that's going. Obviously, they're setting up something with Roman. We're rolling into WrestleMania season. Royal Rumble coming up in 27th. So what? 3 weeks? 4 weeks?
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes. Who comes out of the Rumble is supposed to get their title shot at Mania.
Yeah.
We'll see what's going on there. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't want to foreshadow too much. We'll remain reactionary on this topic. I mean, I'd like to get Alex on sometime and just go back and forth with him for a bit. It's just we have stupid schedules. But I mean, like other news, I mean, AEW had a pay-per-view on the weekend. Samoa Joe's the new champion. MJF, no one knows what his contract status is, so that's the big story there. Edge and Christian, or Adam Copeland and Christian, fought. Fire on the table. There was a bit of a botch there. People are going to be talking about that. That was kind of interesting. I mean, personally, I think that Edge should have changed his name to Cliff when he moved to the new company. How funny is that?
Ooh.
Is that not hilarious? Like, come on, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But I mean, we won't dwell on it too much. I mean, The Rock was obviously the big story in terms of that. But we got to give some credit to the other company too. I mean, Samoa Joe is a big deal. I'm a big Samoa Joe guy. Or Sweet Tooth, if you've watched the Twisted Metal TV show.
Oh, listen, I haven't seen the Twisted Metal show. I loved that game when I was younger. On the PS1 when I had that going, it was little something. I think I gotta get on that, but I didn't know he was in that show. That's good to know.
Him and Anthony Mackie, the Captain America,
the new Captain America. That I don't mind. I like. We don't need to get into Marvel, but Marvel I think has definitely taken a little change since the OGs, if you will. But you know what? There's still some of the OGs are still there.
I don't know. Once the Daredevil universe gets into it and gets back, we'll be back on. We'll
be rolling. We'll be rolling. Now, the one thing I want to say, it's not a popular opinion, but we launched our new format, and this might have been actually before summer now that I think about it. Obviously, Mike Tassoni does a great work helping us on the side amongst a few others that are great with producing, like Alex Flood, etc. But when Mike Tassoni helped with the podcasts that we're doing now, our new format, I did an episode that was what era of wrestling was the best. And it was so easy to answer that question to myself, the Attitude Era, right? And the thumbnail of that show was The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin back when they had a match in now my dates are blank, but it must have been the early thousands that they had a match. And the Attitude Era, you think back, right, with wrestling, and you could look at what the Undertaker would back with Hogan and Andre the Giant, whatever you want to go back to. The Mankind fought off a Hell in a Cell match and just absolutely dismantling his body. But you think of The Rock, you think of Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, the game when he came back and he had the new entrance music and he spits the water up. The Kurt Angle with the milk truck to spray in there. All the stuff was back, and I was saying how the Attitude Era, there is nothing better than the Attitude Era when it came to wrestling. And as I said, Attitude Era over the new era, okay, and it's all because of what The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kurt Angle did, and now what Triple H is doing by bringing The Rock back, that is electrifying. That is something that is a good move for the WWE, and if it is lining up to be a Rock against Roman Reigns WrestleMania, bring it on, baby. Love that idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to put asses in seats, that's for sure.
Yep.
I mean, well, for an already sold out show, but um, I
One of
mean,
the only, that's the only wrestling event that I watch is WrestleMania, and I'm starting to get into the Royal Rumble bit because I think it's funny. Everyone's in the ring and they're just throwing
it's
each
just
other off.
mayhem.
It's great.
It's
It's
pure
mayhem.
mayhem, and there's always like a celebrity or something that shows up to keep it entertaining. So
As long as Paul doesn't get his title shot, I'm okay with it. As
it,
long as
it's always the same weekend as the Pro Bowl, so there's nothing on anyways.
good point. The Pro Bowl, yeah, the All Star games. I'm sure that'll be a topic at some point this year. It always is with the game. Now, basketball. We're going to transition to basketball before going to football. Great love there with wrestling, Justin. Thank you for that. And, of course, we are going to try to line up a little segment for, well, me in the background going like this probably. But definitely be involved because I know my wrestling a little bit. But with Parr and Hykel, especially Parr, whoa, I might just be taking that quarterback play with kind of directing traffic and letting the wide receivers do their thing. That'll probably be that segment, but it'd be great to get Hyke and Parr on hopefully together. Maybe if it's next week, it won't be obviously this week because we only have the one episode this week. And I forgot to say, everyone, Happy New Year. My goodness. I didn't say that at the beginning of the show, so don't add me below. I apologize, okay? I've already done a recording yesterday and on the New Year's Day, so that's why I'm a little bit behind. So Happy New Year's. But transitioning to basketball, the Toronto Raptors, and take a brief lead on this with the Raptors. They made a trade, obviously, and I'm not getting into all the pieces, but the core around it was OG going over to the Knicks, and you got RJ Barrett, and you got Quickley coming the other way from the Knicks, and other moving parts in the trade. There's been so much online about how the Raptors fleeced the Knicks, okay? And it does look like that from the perspective of the trade. Knicks fans adored Quickley. The potential was there. It wasn't even RJ. It seemed like they didn't care about RJ, which shocked me, right? The top pick in the draft, which obviously hasn't worked out as much as they want it to be, but the potential, again, is there for RJ. But Quickley was the one that they were more upset about. But what Knicks fans, I think, are missing out on, I don't mean to call it Knicks fans because they're very passionate basketball fans, okay? And it's almost like a Dallas Cowboys, Toronto Maple Leafs hockey. Like the success just haven't been, there as it should for a little bit. The Cowboys have won more recently than the Leafs have, mind you. But the point is, very passionate fan base, okay? And I'm going to tell you something as a Raptors fan. OG is a great addition to the Knicks, okay? He's a great fit on that team. He can play in different areas of the court. He's a guy who can drive the paint. He's a guy that he can hit those shots. He can hit threes when he gets going. I think this is a win for both sides because the Knicks get a guy that could put them in a different direction. And I don't think the Knicks are done. They're really wanting Karl-Anthony Towns. Okay, and if they can bring in Towns and have him there with OG and the crew that they have, I think the Knicks will be taking that step. Are they a championship team? Look, I'm not going to give all the Knicks fans all the hope that they want to hear, but they're taking steps in the right direction. The Raptors getting RJ Barrett, this is good. You get someone who's homegrown. He's a home guy. Okay, that the passion to want to play at home. Okay, it's not like Bennett or, it's not the same type of project. Having RJ Barrett, he does well. He does get points in a game. He's still effective on the court. He's someone who can distribute the ball. He's got good vision on the court. Shooting isn't where it could be, but there's still improvement there. And I think within the right system in Toronto, maybe where he's going to be a bit more dependent on, like he kind of was at the Knicks at the beginning of his career, where he was dependent on where the expectations. Then it kind of didn't go to that expectation. Like a good reset for RJ Barrett. But I'm also very excited about Quickley. That I understand Knicks fans because you're giving up a big piece to bring in someone, but to upgrade, you're gonna have to move the pieces, and that's what Masai wanted. And I'm telling you this as well as a Raptors fan, Masai is the Masai. Okay, he is the best. One of, if people want to add me, that's fine. But best GMs. Higher up now.
I was going to say, isn't he the president?
He's higher up now, but he's got his say in there. Okay, Masai Ujiri has his fingerprints all over this team. And, what they did when Masai, moved up and they brought in Bobby Webster. Okay, that mind of Bobby Webster is just as excellent as Masai Ujiri's is. Okay, and now, the Raptors haven't been doing that well this year. They're under 500. But I watched that game with RJ and Quickley, their first game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Tristan Thompson coming off the bench, which is really funny. Tristan Thompson. No one likes Tristan Thompson. The poor guy's Canadian too. But back on point, RJ Barrett and Quickley, they did very well in their debuts with the Raptors. I think they're going to fit in really nicely to the system. You got Siakam, who's still there as of now. You got Trent. The fit is there for both guys. RJ can reset and hopefully get to what he could be and was supposed to be, and Quickley can quickly continue to develop. Okay. It's a great move for the Raptors all in all. And I think both teams actually won the trade. To be honest with you, you may not agree, Knicks fans. My goodness, Knicks fans, Justin, on TikTok, whoa. Like, I truly think Knicks fans pull the reins back.
Worse
than
Leafs Twitter.
You're gonna love OG. And we're also gonna love Quickley and RJ. Especially quickly, okay? And we're going to love them quickly. Wow, I just love saying that back to back.
Stop with that.
But the Knicks and the Raptors, I think it's a good basketball trade. It does seem like the Raptors have the edge. A little bit of a fleece because of the future, but OG is going to be a great fit in New York. Mark my words. Last thing I'll get on with the Raptors, Pascal Siakam. Look, Pascal Siakam. I don't like making predictions too much on the show. Well, yeah, I do, I guess. We'd make predictions in the next upcoming segment within the pocket. But you have somebody who was a part of that championship, right? And I was just telling, we did a recent pre-recording with Rod Black, and that's going to be coming out soon. It's going to be great. Rod Black has been around the game and obviously the Raptors. And we were talking about at that point when the Raptors won in 2019, when the Raptors beat the Golden State Warriors. And when they beat the Golden State Warriors, if you went back in time and told younger me that the Raptors would win before the Jays or the Maple Leafs, I would have shook my head at you. I would have said there's no chance, right? Because basketball has always been a different animal. Okay, you got the teams that were always good were good. Kobe's Lakers, LeBron's Cavs and Heat at the time, right? And Golden State Warriors and San Antonio Spurs. The list goes on for how good those guys were. But the Raptors in 2019, that's one of my favorite moments in sports history because I saw a Toronto team that I've been cheering for since I was younger win a championship. And Siakam was there, Kawhi Leonard, and you traded DeMar DeRozan. You made a trade to win the trophy. DeMar DeRozan could have stayed in Toronto. Would they have won with DeMar DeRozan? I'm going to be honest with you. No. They wouldn't have won that year. Kawhi Leonard, they put them over the top. And Kyle and Kawhi played well together. Siakam came out of his shell. Fred VanVleet was lights out from 3 in the playoffs. Everyone remembers.
It's like trading DeMar forced guys to step up.
Yep.
Especially with Kawhi only playing 15% of the games or whatever he was playing. But.
The load management. But the Pascal Siakam was there for when they won. I'm thankful for what Siakam has done, and Spicy P has been dedicated to this transition too since Kawhi left. They've been still competitive. They've been in play-in rounds. They've made the playoffs. This Raptors team has been consistent for the last 15 years. Think back of all the Toronto teams. The two other core Toronto teams, they haven't been as consistent as the Raptors. They haven't. They haven't. The Raptors would have maybe made the finals in the early 10s, but they ran into somebody called LeBron James. I don't know if you heard about him, but he's pretty good at basketball. The Raptors have been consistent. And Spicy P, when he was there, he's been the consistent guy. And there comes a time where you have to move on if it doesn't seem like you're going to be able to keep the guy, or when the value is high because you're in a different direction of your team. Some people may disagree. You should always have loyalty and keep someone. Sure, I agree with that. But Siakam's value is really high, and they can get a good load for him. And the list goes on. There's been rumors with Golden State. There's been rumors with the Dallas Mavericks. There's been rumors with the Sacramento Kings. I believe the Atlanta Hawks have also been rumored in trade. Look, everyone's lining up that's contending to get Pascal Siakam. But what I want to mention with Pascal Siakam is, if you want me to give you a prediction, I will. Will he get traded? Yes. Where do I think he's going to go? Sacramento Kings. And I think Sacramento really wants him. I just think why a trade hasn't happened yet, as much like it's been reported on multiple news and sports outlets. Keegan Murray. That's who the Toronto Raptors want. Former 4th overall pick. He's a young sharpshooter, but he's considered a part of the young core there in Sacramento. It's really hard to part with that. It's almost like if the Raptors were trying to make a run and they would have to trade Scotty Barnes. It's not the same. But where do I think Siakam's going? Yes, he's getting traded, as I mentioned, but I think he's going to be going to the Sacramento Kings, and it's going to be a trade that's revolving around Keegan Murray and plus some other assets there. And I think that would be a good fit for Sacramento. That would really put them over the top. Truly, I did have a little bit of a feeling towards Golden State because Andrew Wiggins is there in Golden State, and I wonder if maybe that would be a piece, but I don't think it's enough pieces
What
that
about
Bobby
Draymond?
would want.
He was a great teammate.
Draymond Green would be a great fit with the Raptors, yeah, for
great
sure.
Teammate.
But I think Sacramento, you can't count out the other teams that I've mentioned, especially Golden State. And I think it'd be cool to have Wiggins in Toronto, but that's just the Canadian factor. The best move for Toronto would be to move Siakam to Sacramento and bringing in Murray. I think that'd be a really good fit there. Justin, we've talked wrestling, we've talked basketball, something we normally don't talk about as much as we should because we're always so invaded with hockey and football, baseball.
Two wild cards.
Yeah, it's really been as busy as of late, but we always talk about every other sport as much as we can, but it's been quite busy the past month with the other ones really invading time. So this is the Game Sports Podcast. Dave McCaig here with Justin Hykel, and as Justin mentioned at the beginning, we're powered by 91 and that's 91 Network. But make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. There's definitely great content there for you to enjoy. Justin, we got In the Pocket to get into here. And we're not going to be doing 2-minute warning today. EJ is not here. The 2-minute warning is going to be EJ's little segment on the show. There's somebody that can talk for 2 minutes. People think it's me. Look, EJ is actually the better guy for 2-minute warning. I promise you that. So there won't be a 2-minute warning, but we are going to talk about NCAA football, the recent games this past weekend. There was a lot of good games that were played this past weekend, in particular the two big games now that we know who the finalists are going to be for the national championship. And then Justin and I are going to talk about the NFL to wrap up the show, and that includes our pick'ems. So, Justin, I'm going to talk about the NCAA first, if that's okay a little bit, because I'd rather get into the time with NFL afterwards. And
go for it. Get it out of your system.
I think what I really liked about NCAA football this weekend was a couple things. I know this is not going to be a favorite remark, especially from one of my closest friends. His name's Jerry. He's a Rolling Tide guy, but to see University of Michigan move on, it was a great football game, and it's good to see Michigan close to home move on, but I'll get to them in just a minute. The Oregon Ducks ended up winning the Fiesta Bowl. That game was played on Monday, January the 1st, too. And if everybody knows, I am a Oregon Duck fan. The LSU Tigers won against the Wisconsin Badgers in a very close game as well. Look, the college football scene has all these different bowls, and people think it's, who aren't maybe avid followers of college football. There's a lot of games that they were able to watch this weekend. And one on Saturday, too, there was a closer game that, people didn't really feel was as entertaining, but Wyoming beat Toledo in the Arizona Bowl as well. There's a Cheez-It Citrus Bowl as well between Tennessee and Iowa, and Tennessee won 35-0. And so that game wasn't as close as maybe people would hope. But then you had the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl. Okay. But before I get into those big games, I want to say again, Oregon Ducks winning the Fiesta Bowl.
Quick shout out to the Pop-Tarts mascot there for going through the toaster and then getting eaten. I
love that you mentioned that. I love that.
Was that mascot was off the rails. That entire I caught a bit of that. Like that's what I saw. I saw the Cheez-It mascot being respectable, and then the Pop-Tarts mascot was totally off the rails.
Unreal. So that guy has a different energy. Each mascot has a different energy, and it was something to watch this weekend. But Bo Nix, too. Kid's good. Kid's very, very good. 5 TDs this weekend. That's great to see. I might have to get an Oregon Ducks Bo Nix jersey. I never got a Marcus Mariota one, so maybe I should probably do that first. But Oregon Ducks Fiesta Bowl, I'll make sure I say it again because that's someone I cheer for. But the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. I'm going to go to the Sugar Bowl first. I watched the entirety of the Rose Bowl. I had stuff going on, so I couldn't fully watch the Texas Longhorns and Washington Huskies game as much as I wanted to in the Sugar Bowl. But I did obviously watch as much as I could. I did watch the fourth quarter, and it was the first two quarters were close. They were tied going into the half, right? And then in the third quarter, Washington did pull away, and that's where I was able to really kind of sit down and watch. And then Texas made it interesting in the fourth quarter. And guys that really stood out to me, I feel like Quinn Ewers did very well, but also CJ Baxter. The Texas was in this game. But as EJ said, when I was really watching Penix, and I really haven't had a chance to watch, as I said, college football as much as I want to this year, but Michael Penix Jr., the kid's gross. Okay, 430 yards, 2 touchdowns. When he's on the field, he was just looking really good out there. Dylan Johnson, and then you got Rome. I never say his last name right, so please don't add me too much. But Rome Odenzine, O-D-U-Z-E. So I Odenze. I'm not good at pronouncing that last name.
You did it better than me.
Rome Odenze. There we go. I had to make sure I said it. A little too much pressure to say it right off the hop. Over 120 yards in the game as well. The Washington, I just felt like, even though it was a closer game that maybe I felt it seemed, I feel like Washington was the better football team, and just kind of watching what effect that Penix Jr. has on that field. The Washington Huskies have really bought into his play, and it's just his everything's called well. The defense, I feel like both sides of the football defensively, there was some inconsistencies, but overall, the game was as anticipated. It was close and right down to the wire, and Texas made it interesting in the fourth, but Washington's moving on to the finals, as everybody kind of predicted what happened in that game. But the game I want to give a little bit of extra love here to is Michigan, right? The Michigan Wolverines in overtime. And I totally forgot, I'll be honest, about that rule in NCAA football where they use the half. Overtime's different in NCAA than it is in the NFL, right? It is very different. It's really cool. I'm not saying the NFL should adopt that. Nope, don't do that. I'm just saying that I think college does it it's very good. But Saban and Harbaugh, the two coaches were just going at it. And JJ McCarthy, kids looking real good too. The quarterbacks just all weekend, there was a lot of good to watch, but watching Blake Corum, they break the record as well with Michigan for touchdowns. That broke in the game, and just to see the overtime, it was back and forth. And if everyone remembers, Alabama had Michigan at one point. It was down to where, at the half, the Michigan was up by 3. Nothing happened in the third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, Bama's, they get 10, Michigan gets 7 to tie up the game, but Michigan had to score late. It was down to the wire, and when they kept zooming in on Saban, Harbaugh's at the sidelines. If you got the video, he's like, you can see me right now. He's got his bend and his look in the camera. Saban's just got his, whatever he's doing with his head down, walking, and I just loved the way that game was. And I felt the defenses were really well in these games too. It was hard to choose a winner. It was hard to choose a winner before this game, but as the game was going on, if you look at the projection to win, I believe Michigan has the slight percentage probability to win, given how the game was. Just remembering looking at stats for that. But the way the overtime was, that quick score, and shut them down at the end, it's harder to do it that way. And the Michigan's defense was a beast at the end, and ultimately, I think the better football team truly won this game. And to see the way JJ made plays for Michigan, really, I feel like he was the better quarterback in this game too. And I think that was an effect, even though it's just a 1 touchdown game. He was a difference maker, and obviously when you score a touchdown in overtime to put the pressure on, it really changes.
You can't say just a 1 touchdown game though. Like that was.
Yeah,
I feel like number one, it discredits the defenses, but it also discredits how hard that touchdown was to get for the offense. Like
it's not easy to get those touchdowns, right?
Like the game was a battle. Like it was better than any pro game that was on last weekend. So,
yep, it was. Unless you're a Steeler fan, I thought it was really good to watch the Steelers win last week. It's kind of coming down to the wire this week. Looks like that's a good transition. Look, we talked NCAA football. We got the championship game between Washington and Michigan. Look, I'm going to give a little bit of love to EJ because he wanted me to make sure that I stated this, and I pointed this out. Justin may have this up already. But EJ, he did pick Washington to win originally, just so everybody knows. Okay. I picked Michigan, so everybody knows, all you Michigan people. Okay. Justin didn't make a prediction, but he can now. EJ picked University of Michigan, 37-35 win. I like that score. That's a very good score. I'm actually going to go 35-30 for Michigan to win this. It's on January 8th is the game, so it'll be great. Something to definitely get into.
Monday night.
Exactly. And we have a podcast that night, and Dane's supposed to be on it. I don't know. We might have to do a different time recording on that day with Dane. But jokes aside, that'll be exciting. Justin, what's your prediction for the
I'm just taking Michigan. That's all I got. Michigan. That's it.
Michigan. You got a 3-way sweep for Michigan. Penix Jr., hey, good season, but this is U of M's year. NFL, Justin, we're 35 minutes in. We're going to spend the next handful of minutes here or so before we do a wrap-up. As I remind everyone, this is just one segment through commercial-free, the Game Sports Podcast powered by 91N. Dave McCaig here with Justin Hykel. Justin, football. Let's get into a little bit of news from last week, then we'll get into our pick'ems before we wrap up. Joe Flacco, okay, we were talking off air that what universe are we in? You know, Joe Flacco is leading the Cleveland Browns into the playoffs. You have
38's the new 25, according to Joe Flacco.
And if, like he said today, his quote was fantastic. If I was in this room, I'd be these guys' parents.
Okay, I was dying when he was falling asleep on the bench last week. It's like, yeah, I've been there, man. I understand. Doing the bobbing and weaving on the couch sometimes in the fourth quarter on Thursday Night Football. I do it every week.
And look at, I know LeBron's kind of a bad example, but LeBron, I know we're talking, this is the In the Pocket segment, just to remind everybody, but look at LeBron, ageless wonder. I'll use a hockey reference here. Here it is. Martin Jones and Cam Talbot with LA and Toronto, right? Like, listen, it doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter. And Joe Flacco, if you would have told me that Joe Flacco would have been leading the Cleveland Browns into the playoffs this year, I would have told you you're crazy. And I also would have told you, go bet that $20 because you probably would have made $1 million off that guess. I'm assuming it's probably a little ludicrous. But again, the Cleveland Browns get in. Mason Rudolph, are you kidding me right now? Not that he's an ageless wonder. I know we were just talking about guys who are older. Mason's not old. He's young. But this is a guy that was not on the depth chart.
Better than Kenny Pickett. That's for sure.
So much better. Okay. And you had a Steelers team that had Trubinsky, who had Pickett. Now you have Mason Rudolph. And Najee Harris is picking it up. It's different. You're riding Rudolph all the way. If you make it to the playoffs and you go further, it's Rudolph all the way. But I imagine some Colts fans or other teams, Bills fans, may not want to hear the word playoffs come out of the mouth of a Steelers fan.
The only thing I'm worried about is you guys got that. Your game is right before the Colts game on Saturday, and you got that bullshit reffing crew from the Cowboys game reffing that game.
And a depleted roster too.
Yeah, so let's. I mean, if the script so says that the Steelers are supposed to win, then so be it. But then I become even more suspicious on those like 65 penalties that got thrown against the Colts in the last minute of the Cleveland game.
I'm thinking truly is that Tomlin got his right. Another season, another winning season. Maybe the refs won't be corrupt in this one. Maybe Rudolph will have to take a step aside and actually really have to step up his game or continue to play at the game that he is doing. I think there's going to be a lot of trap games this week. I know there's like, hey, these guys are resting these guys. These guys aren't playing. These guys are
there's so much going on still. Like that's
so much. I
mean, honestly, this is I don't remember a season being this close in a long time.
Yeah.
Like, and honestly, I mean, like the NFC's a mess right now too because Philly can't win a game. They can't even buy a win. KC's in a tailspin too in the AFC.
Just clinch that division. I thought they would have clinched that a lot earlier.
Like what? If the Bills win Saturday or Sunday night, then the Bills clinch the division. But if Miami wins, then Miami wins the division. If Jacksonville loses and the Colts win, then the Colts win the division for some fucking reason somehow. But
if the Bills have the Steelers,
I think
somebody else will win and they lose, Bills are out.
Yeah, there's
so much if, ands, buts, and who wins and loses. The mindset's got to be when you go in this week is just win your game.
Yeah, that's it. Just win. You got to do what you can control, and you on a team, you can control your win.
I think it's going to be a
Unless
week
you're
of
Carolina.
defense. I think it's defense, right? Defense. Carolina got shut out. What a joke that team
And
is.
their owners threw drinks at fans.
Uh,
The NFL fined them $300,000.
I love that. Should have fined him more.
Yeah,
Maybe
fine.
take ownership
Take the
away
team
from
away.
We're on the same page. I think this week's going to be a battle of the defenses, right? And I know we're going to get into our pick 'em shortly here, but I'll give you the floor on anything else you want to bring up from last week that would be notable to chat about.
I mean, the elephant in the room is the Lions game, I think, and Lions fans, I sympathize with you. The Cowboys,
Yes, talk about that, please.
The Cowboys
Yes.
get an awful lot of calls, and I understand all the Cowboys fans crying about the tripping. Oh, and we wouldn't have even been at that point if there wasn't a tripping call. Yeah, relax. Like the Cowboys get, and like the worst part is I find this like publicly that Cowboys fans are always the ones that are also the ones that obnoxiously hate the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know what I mean? Like, but they're the same thing. This is that meme with Pam from The Office, and it's like, tell me the difference between these two pictures. One's the Toronto Maple Leafs, one's the they're the same thing. All right, like all the money in the world, can't do fuck all with it, and the product you put out there is just a fumbling, bumbling points machine disaster. Tell me what's different about them. Dallas has a running back that can't score from the 4-yard line. So, I don't know. But Lions fans, I feel for you. That's about as bad as the Calvin Johnson one. And, I mean, we were playing cards out in the garage, so I didn't completely hear. But no one in the garage said that they heard the referees announce who was eligible. And so if the refs never announced who was eligible, then how was the defense supposed to know who was eligible? And if they don't announce that 68 was eligible, then no one on the defense is going to cover him. So obviously he was wide open. But like then you watch the videos and 68 is the one talking to the ref. Yes, you see 70 run out, but the ref is already out of the picture. And that ref looked an awful lot like Boyle from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, if anyone's a Brooklyn Nine-Nine fan. I think the issue is that the refs never announced. Like to me, I think that's where the issue started, is that they never made an announcement, and so they just called a penalty on it because that was the easy out.
And that screws them. It screws the Lions.
It fucks the Lions, but
it changes the entire playoff picture, right? For them,
I mean, the Lions also could have just kicked the field goal and took it to overtime. You know what I mean? You went for two more times after that. Like you had two opportunities to kick a fucking field goal and just take it to overtime. So I mean, it wasn't the penalty that fucked you over. All right, like I'm not saying the penalty ruined everything. Yeah, the penalty sucked. That sucks. I'm all about fat guys getting points. Trust me, I was dancing around when he scored. But you could take it to overtime and just win the game there. That's the opportunity was there.
Yep. Take that chance. You don't have to be, you take a risk at an appropriate time. This is a time in the season where you want to solidify and be sure, right? Even when you're in the playoffs, those risky plays are hard to make, right? You always think of that 1 yard.
And I understand, like the Lions, like they want to be good. Like they want people to think they're going to go for it on 4th down. They want people to think they're going for 2.
Yeah,
we already think that. I mean, I do at home. You know what I mean? It's like Philly when Philly's on the 1 yard line. You know that Hurts is getting the ball. Like you just,
oh yeah, he is. You
don't have to prove it. Like it's almost more of a surprise if you don't.
Yep.
So
and sometimes that surprise works, to be honest.
Like, I don't know. Dan Campbell's I think Dan Campbell Dan Campbelled himself.
That's a good analogy. The guy can outdo himself. He kind of even a little overthinks at times that little gamble play, but there's a time and a place for it. And I feel that the Lions did shoot themselves in the foot to a degree. Yeah, they did. They did get the shaft per se on a rear end of a call, and that changes the shape of their playoff picture, right? It just changes it, and now you got a different road to the playoffs.
It's not that bad. It's still not that. I feel like honestly, I think Lions fans might get fucked out of a playoff game at home at some point.
But is that a bad thing for them? For real, it's not like they've had the most success. Maybe it's time to flip the script on a few things online. Sometimes when you got to rewrite
but
history.
don't you think the Lions fans deserve a playoff game?
So true.
Like really, like this is at the base level of everything. I think that they deserve to have a playoff game at home.
Yeah, that's a
and
good point.
if that is what takes that away, well, you should have kicked the field goal, kicked the extra point, and took it to overtime. I don't know. Anyways, let's.
The one thing I'll say quick: the Eagles game, man. Eagles, hello. Are you they're not frauds.
No.
I don't want. They're not frauds. I know some people say fraud. They're not. You know what a team that's. Let's be honest. I'm gonna tell you what team's a fraud. Okay,
they're not a fraud. Everyone knows what they are.
Okay, listen. As a Steelers fan, I'm gonna tell you right now, that team, the record that they have is to be deceiving. You know what wins you games? You know what won the Steelers games? Mason Rudolph helped the last few weeks, but defense and Tomlin. Okay, that team's offense was not ever until Mason Rudolph decided to turn into an elite quarterback this past couple weeks. Okay, the Eagles. Anyone who's saying they're frauds, you guys. I'm gonna say you're dumb. You're dumb. They're not frauds, but they are going through a rough patch. Though it's like, oh, how do you lose to the Cardinals? Never mind lose.
I don't know. I would
say 35 points against you against the Cardinals. Never mind lose.
Kyler Murray's kind of like that guy in the last couple weeks of fantasy, like regular season, and he's in 7th place, and he just starts fucking people over. Like he just starts beating people, and like it's just times when you don't need those beats, and that's what Kyler Murray's doing right now. He's just taking a run at teams that are like, "Yeah, you're down on your luck. Fuck you. I'm 5'2",
and I'm gonna screw you over."
Yeah, like that's mighty.
And the Ravens 56-19 over the Dolphins.
Yeah, that was an assault.
The Ravens are for real. They're for real. That team is good.
Tyreek's house caught on fire today. Did you see that? Well, he was at practice.
I didn't see. You guys talked about that. Tyreek, hopefully everything's all good in your house. Like, no, shouldn't say that.
It looked like it was on fire.
It was on fire. It's not like one of those. I'm sorry. I thought it was more of maybe it got put out. Some things were salvaged, but that aside, that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. You know, it's
not what you want going into a big game weekend of all things.
No, 100%.
I mean, if your family's fine, obviously you can just move ahead. It's probably easier said than done. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. Was it his regular house? Was it like his beach house? Lots of questions.
Best wishes to Tyreek. Hopefully everything turns out okay from it.
Hopefully it wasn't some Bills fans just jumping on flaming tables in the driveway.
Oh, the Bills Mafia be crazy. But yes, Hike, why don't you let everyone know our pick'ems? Let's go into our pick'ems for this week.
Yeah, that's sweet.
We're going to wrap up the episode.
That's where we went off the rails. That was our week 17 wrap up for the Game Sports Show Pick'em Pool. Back in first place, my chub is Miles Long with 12 points last week, bringing total up to 161. Hike's picks in second with 10 right last week, total points up to 160. And Steelers Nation in third with 11 right last week with 159 points. So a 2-point spread top to bottom going into week 18. Gonna be interesting. Dave, you want to start them off with your picks? You finished with 11. You beat me last week, so.
You know, honestly, it's been quite the pick'em year. It's been real close all around. I know I was in first, I think, for 8 weeks, and then EJ was for a bit, then you were. Honestly, I just don't want EJ to win, so I hope it's one of us. I don't need to hear a three-peat for EJ. I don't care what he says. His picks are in. You know, he's missed about 5 or 6 weeks of recordings this year, but he does get his picks in pretty routinely. So to get to my picks, I'm going to be a little bit – look, I'm down by 2 from EJ. So usually I like to take risks and pick, and I do pick based on who I actually think is going to win. I want everyone to know that. But sometimes I'm like, do I go this way? And you know what? This week I am going to go, that little unexpected way. I'm going to take some extra picks this week, okay? Wouldn't try to leave out some bias. Well, there's a couple biases in there. Let's go. Steelers over the Ravens. That's happening. Texans over the Colts. Yeah, that's happening. We know why that's happening. Browns and Bengals. Browns over the Bengals. Lions over the Vikings. Jags over the Titans. Jets over the Patriots this week. Gonna say it. Saints over the Falcons. The Bucks over the Panthers. The Panthers are gonna score 3 points this week. Okay, there's my spoiler. Who I think's got the least this week. The Packers over the Bears. The Raiders over the Broncos. The Russell Wilson-less Broncos. Eagles over the Giants. Seahawks over the Cardinals. Really hard to pick that, to be honest with you, because Kyler Murray, he likes to come on in there. Chiefs. I was going to go the Chiefs over the Chargers, and I went back and forth here, but the Chargers are so bad, it was hard not to choose the Chiefs still. So I'm going with the Chiefs. The 49ers over the Rams, the Cowboys over the Commanders, and I got the Dolphins over the Bills, and I had the Bills winning the Super Bowl this year. They ain't making it this year. I'm calling it. They ain't making it. It's happening. Bengals and Browns, look, I'm going to do 32-21 Browns over the Bengals. And for the Vikings, I got them getting I put a 12 there, so what I wanted. I want the Lions are going to get 24-13 over the Vikings this week. The least this week is the Carolina Panthers by an absolute landslide. 3 points is all they're getting this week, and I want to be a little bit of a gamble because I think they're going to be absolutely mad this week, and they're going to go into the playoffs being upset based on what's happened last week, and I'm choosing the Philadelphia Eagles to have the most points this week.
That's not where I thought you were going with that.
There's my picks.
All right. So, obviously, my sports team bias plays into my picks this week. So I'm taking the Ravens backups over the Steelers.
Yikes.
Colts over the Texans. Cincinnati over Cleveland, because I'm still bitter about the refs tossing that game to Cleveland against the Colts. Detroit over Minnesota. That's the game where I thought you said they were still mad from last week. The Lions were going to score the most points this week. I was incorrect. Tennessee over Jacksonville, because the Colts would love to win the division. New England over the Jets, because I think Billy B is going to get a win there if that is his last game. Big if. New Orleans over Atlanta, because I think the Saints are still in play with the division somehow. Tampa over Carolina, because Tampa has to win that. Carolina can't win a game. There's no way. Green Bay over Chicago. Vegas over Denver. Philly over the Giants. Arizona over Seattle. KC over the Chargers. For some reason, KC is the underdog. Don't get that. I don't know why they'd be resting, because I think they're still. Yeah,
they won the division, but
they did win the. Okay, so then maybe they are resting players. I guess Taylor's not going to be at that game this week then. Rams over the 49ers, because I was thinking that San Fran is going to be resting players. Dallas over Washington, and Buffalo over Miami, because I would rather the Colts play the Bills in the playoffs if we sit in the 7th seed. That's the reason behind that pick. No other reason whatsoever. Cincinnati 27, Cleveland 24, Detroit 44, Minnesota 28. And then most points this week, Indianapolis, because they have to. And fewest points this week, Carolina, because
they
have no choice. Yeah,
they're ass.
That's what I got. I had to mix up the picks a little bit, because we got to shake up these standings and see who wins.
I think this is the last week, because just so everyone knows, with Pick'em, we don't count the playoffs in our. Yeah, no, we don't. Do we?
Well, we could if we wanted to, but the last few years we've made our picks for the playoffs, but we haven't counted them towards the final standings.
You can break that to EJ this year.
He's the one that decided that. The last
well,
couple of years, he didn't want to count the playoffs because he was way too far ahead.
Well, here's the thing, listeners. If you think we should count the playoffs, count below. Your opinion may or may not matter, but we want the interaction for that if you feel like getting involved. Now, Justin, it's been a fun show. We've talked about a lot here in the 54 minutes and 23
I was going to
seconds.
say we talked at length. We both kind of figured we'd be 35, and here we are at 53.
Yeah, we've went on, but with things that are entertaining. A lot of good stuff this week, and it's our first show back, our first show of 2024. And if anyone's interested to know, I did lose football fantasy finals to Pat DeLuca. I got absolutely fucking killed. I lost 129 to 62 in the finals.
62.
Yeah, what a week for my team to take off, and they didn't even look like a finalist team. I gotta say, it wasn't pretty. So yours truly finished second, which is the first time I ever finished second in a football pool.
That's a terrible spot for drafting next year.
It's unfortunate for me to not get the dub. But you know what, Yahoo? You thought I was going to finish second last and with a D+ draft. That's what I got to say about you, okay? The Italian way to tell you right now that I proved Yahoo wrong, okay? That's my win for the year.
Yeah, I'm sure they're hurt.
I'm sure they feel real bad. Their prediction guys should be fired. But this is the Game Sports Podcast. It's been Dave McCaig with Justin Hykel. Justin, my friend, like I said, lots that we talked about, man. Lots that we talked about.
Next week should be interesting after the bold statements and predictions this week.
Oh, I imagine, hopefully EJ can take part in it next week, and we can have the crew together. It'd be nice to make sure we try to get Tyler on an episode or something. It'd be nice to even get Matt Primo in last year. If anyone remembers, he was on the Super Bowl preview show. If people remember that.
We should get Tyler on for a Lions preview. Playoff preview. I think that he's really the only one that can rightfully push that out there.
Yeah, and he's Barstool famous now, so maybe we have to watch. Might have to send him a paycheck. Jokes aside, sorry, free ad for Barstool, like they need it. Again, the Game Sports Podcast. We will be uploading a special edition show. It's been talked about for a month. We've had some errors with it. It was something that was pre-recorded even before I was married, so it's a little bit of a dated episode. But with James Sabalski, we had a couple producers look at it. There was some issues that we had to figure out, and finally got ironed out last night at 11:30 p.m. There was some back and forth texts going on last night, meaning on January 2nd, 2024. It's been 4 months coming with this, so it's been some work. So because we put the work in, we hope that you can take the time to enjoy the episode. So keep an eye out for that upload. But our next podcast episode is going to be on Monday, January the 8th. I know it's going to be a busy January 8th because it's a national football game, but we will make sure that our upload will be on the Tuesday so it doesn't interfere with that. As everybody knows, our uploads usually occur the day after recording, just so it's not a spoiler. But again, the Game Sports Podcast is powered by 91N. That's 91 Network YouTube channel. Head on over there to check out all variety of podcasts. If you're currently doing a podcast or want to do one, 91 Network, ssm@gmail.com. Justin, again, thank you very much for taking the time. And like I said, next week we'll be back on Monday for the Game Sports Podcast. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe all the Game Sports Podcast platforms as well, Spotify, Apple. Look, we've had a lot of good interaction these past few months. We have a big year coming up in 2024. It's our gift to you, the viewers and listeners who've been around for the last almost 8 years. We're definitely going to be aggressive with a lot of things this year. Finally, it's been a long time coming and a lot of things we had to work out. So we're excited to bring you a lot this year with both the Game Sports Podcast and 91N, and we're happy that you're here to take part of it. Happy New Year. Make sure to say it at the end, and wish you, Justin, and all other football fans that are cheering for our team the best of luck this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, no stress this weekend, everybody. No stress.
No stress this weekend.
Lots of stress.
That jersey's going to be on next week, maybe. Okay, if it goes the way I want to, and if you know what
absolutely
I'm talking about.
Absolutely not. Zero chance.
The biggest frauds to get into the playoffs. I'd love it. I'd have an evil laugh if I got here on next week. But again, thank you again. We appreciate you, listeners. Until next time, I'm here to remind you: keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdowns, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah!
See ya.